When I was working on my AppSpan selector, I wanted people to be able to create a selector for free, but only up to 5 times a day. As soon as I click on create selector, a selector is created. And if I click on it again, I get an error message that I only can create up to 5 selectors a day. And in this tutorial, I will show you how I created this rate limit without any third-party providers. I created a Next.js application with a simple page where it's just a button with the text check rate limit. So now we go into our libs folder if you don't have it created and create a new file called ratelimit.ts or JS if you don't use TypeScript. So what we first need is we need a new map. To do it, we can create a const, for example, const id to request count. And inside this id to request count, we want to save a new map. And this map contains first string. That will be the IP which is saved. And after that, the number, that will be the amount, how many requests the IP has. So after that, we create a new object from our custom rate limiter. And inside this rate limiter, we want a window start. That will be the time when it has started. We can select as default date.now, so the current date. The next one will be the window size. That will be the time span. In there you can have the max requests. For example, we want to do 10 seconds, so we create 10 times 1000 for the milliseconds. And after that, we create the max requests. For example, 2. So we can have 2 requests in 10 seconds. Then we create our limiter. So we create export const rate limit, which will need the IP as a parameter. Then we will create a const now, which will save the current date we have. Then we need to check if it's a new window. So we create a const is new window. Where we check if now minus the rate limit dot window start, which was saved the date there, is bigger than the rate limiter dot window size, so the time where we set the max requests for. Then we check if it's a new window, and if it's a new window, we set the rate limiter dot window start to now, so it will be a new window. And we add our IP to our map with the amount of 0. So we set ID to request dot set the IP and then the 0. Now we need to check how many requests will come from this IP. So we create a const current request count is equal to, we check first if we already have an IP saved in our map. So we do id request count dot get and the IP. If not, the current request count is 0. Then we need to check if the current request count is greater or equal to our max requests. So we create if current request count is greater or equal to our rate limiter dot max requests. And if yes, then we return true. If our limit is not reached, we set the IP to our map and increase the current request count by 1. So we do id to request count dot set our IP, then the current request count plus 1, and return false. After we create our rate limit, we go into a root folder. Then we create a new folder called actions. Inside this actions folder, we create a new server action. For example, check rate limit.ts. Now we first need to mark it as new server. So next now with the server component. Then we export our const, check rate limit. This will be an async function. Now first we need to get the IP. So we use import headers from next headers. Then we create a const IP, which will be equal to headers dot get x minus forwarded minus 4, or unknown if we don't get any IP. And then we create a const is rate limited, and we check for the rate limit, and as a parameter we get the IP, and then we can return the rate limit. Inside our page we need to mark it as use client. Then we need to import the use state from React, create a new const rate limit and set rate limit, but we use it as a boolean. Then we create a const on submit. This will be the function called every time we click on the button. So we create a const is rate limited is equal to check rate limit, and then we set the rate limit to is rate limited, and we need to do an asynchronous and await because it's a server function. Under the button we can create a new span. Then we need to add the onSubmit to the onClick function button. So onSubmit. Now we currently have false. If we click on it, it's still false, and now it will be true. And when it's true, you can create a pop-up or do whatever you want. And that's one way how you can implement a rate limit without any third-party providers. If you want the source code, you will find it in the description in a Medium article.